Welcome to the Frequency and Flow weekly energetic business activation for the week of January 31st, 2022. In these short and sweet transmissions, I discuss the cosmic and energetic transits for the upcoming week and how they might impact your business, as well as how I plan to integrate these activations in my own business. By the end of the transmission, you'll have guidance and some practical tips on how to expand, activate, and add more flow into your life and business by leveraging the cosmic energies at play. Make sure you subscribe to Frequency and Flow on your preferred platform so you can catch these activations and plus other juicy content that I post each week. All right, let's dive in. For the week of January 31st, 2022, our theme of the week is mirror. Here's a little story to help us step into the energy of the week. All the way back, 2020, feels like forever ago. My business was starting to pick up. I had left my corporate career and I struggled a little bit with my own business. But in 2020, my business was finally starting to pick up and I was completely booked out on clients. I was so excited to be building my business and to be building a business that was successful on paper in terms of revenue that I was at the point where I was so focused on that revenue and being a successful business on paper that I was accepting almost any opportunity to bring in cash revenue into my business. If someone came to me and said, "Hey, I need to do X, Y, and Z," or "I'm looking for this," if I could do it, I would do it. I said yes. Which led me to accepting any client that came into my business, whether they were a good fit for me or not. I really had this employee mentality to things like, sure, I can do that. Sure, I can do that, without really thinking about if I actually wanted to do that. And so in that process, I started bringing on some clients, some of whom were a good fit, but some of whom were not great fits. One of the very first clients that I started working with in 2020 was a wonderful woman who was looking for someone who had a certain skill set that I could do, but it was all tasks that I didn't really want to do, nor were they in my zone of genius. And so, I was working with her and slowly actually building up my work with her. But I really resented working with her because I felt like I wasn't seen. I felt like she wasn't giving me the things that I would really excel at. I was kind of just doing things for her. And I was getting really bitter. But I didn't learn my lessons at that point. I was so focused on revenue and working with her more to bring in more money into the business, more revenue, that I allowed that cycle to continue and just, it bothered me, but I didn't do anything to address it. And then, that led to other clients and more and more clients who didn't see me, didn't value me, didn't see my gifts. They just saw me as someone fitting into a slot, a certain slot in their business, which is fine. But I allowed that to happen. I allowed my boundaries. I took on all this work without taking into account my own boundaries and how much did I want to work, the type of work I wanted to do, and allowed those boundaries to slip because I was so focused on just making enough money to prove that I was worthy or that I was successful in this business venture. I just didn't learn, I was realizing things. I was having moments of that out of alignment feeling for a projector, that bitterness, that resentment, but I didn't learn my lesson. I saw the red flags, but I didn't listen to them. And I wasn't really clear. I wasn't really clear in what I wanted. And I wasn't really, because I was really murky on the inside, my business reflected that. I had all sorts of clients. I was doing all sorts of work. Every day was extremely chaotic where I was flipping back and forth between all this client work. And I just kept going because I was focused on the wrong thing and trying to prove my worth instead of, I was doing all these things externally to try to prove to myself that I was worthy. And I was still learning to believe in myself, to trust my own intuition, to trust my own instincts. Even though I knew things weren't right, I didn't trust myself to take action on the things that I knew didn't feel right. And I was just so focused on that agenda of proving to myself that I could make $10,000 months, 5-figure months consistently in my business, that I ignored everything else that was going into creating that and the chaos that I was creating around me just so that I could hit that that say that I could do that and prove my worth. I wasn't clear on anything that I wanted. So I just kind of attracted anything and allowed myself to be treated in a way that, to be honest, like I didn't feel worthy of the like I just allowed myself to be treated like someone who didn't believe that they were worthy because I wasn't. My outside was reflecting my inside. I didn't feel worthy and I was chasing an external thing to feel worthy. And I was allowing all these things to happen in my external world because I didn't believe that I was worthy of having a business where I was recognized for my gifts and my business, the lifestyle that my business and, lifestyle my business matched. Like they were very much out of whack because I didn't really consider that. I was so focused on one thing. So how does that energy, like that mirror energy and focusing on that mirror, that really plays into the energy of this week. So the sun, last week we talked about this gate 19 and how it really is focused, and that energy continues into through midweek this week. So maybe right now, if you're listening to this, you're like still in that energy of really focusing on the internal and being sovereign in your internal channel and being able to, the stronger that you get in that channel and like the more clear you get in your energy, the more awareness that you can have and like that you can bring to the outer world, so that mirror energy, continuing from the theme of new perspectives last week and going into this theme of mirror, last week we had the energy of new perspective, like bringing new awareness to yourself and the cycles that you're in. And this week it's all about examining, like now that you have that awareness of examining, like does the external match the internal? And that's all through this energy. So of gate 19, gene key 19, going from codependency, so like relying on things outside of yourself or like focusing on the external first instead of the internal. And then starting on Thursday of this week, the 3rd, the sun energy goes from 19 to 13. And the gate of 13, gene key in gate 13 is all about listening and like learning lessons from your past through being aware of them. And so these energies, like I just love, and I'm probably going to say this a million times over, doing these weekly energetic business activations, because this energy just flows so beautifully from, like, as the sun passes through each gate, the story that we tell, going from, it's like just last week was all about, kind of getting really clear in the channel and like bringing awareness so that you have new perspectives. And this week it's all about observing does your external environment, do your relationships, do your like cycles and patterns of what's happening on the outside, do they match what's happening internally? Because it's a reflection. So whatever's happening internally is what's going to happen externally. So if you're stuck in these karmic patterns, this is gate 13. So as we go into from discord to discernment and all about listening and learning from your past, there's a lot of like kind of karma or like traumatic patterns and bonds and cycles that you might be observing now that you've gone through this process of the gate 19, the first half of the week, like getting really clear on your internal channel and bringing awareness and new perspective to that new channel. Then later in the week now here, starting like the 2nd and the 3rd, you can really like observe and have that fresh awareness and that take on your existing patterns and cycles and begin to unravel them, and so that you can kind of clear yourself of some of those cycles that are happening with this new awareness that you have. So again, like the energy early in the week that's carrying over from last week, this bringing more energy into your channel is all about like meeting your needs by fulfilling yourself, becoming more empathic, like more sensitive to what's around you so that you can be aware of the new opportunities and cycles that are coming to you to help you expand by focusing on, becoming more clear in your own channel. And so I want you to ask yourself, early this week, are your internalized beliefs affecting your outer state? Are they impacting your outer state? Or is your outer environment a reflection of that inner state? That's a really big question that it's going to be good to observe. Like you're probably in the middle of that this week, but if you haven't, from last week's activation message, but going into this week, like how can you a spot check, like look into, like, does your inner state reflect your out, or does your outer state reflect your inner state? Or is your outer state reflecting, like how is that reflection? Like, are they in alignment, and are they what you want to be reflecting? And if not, what are those patterns that are keeping you in those cycles? It's all about having that stable and that clear inner environment so that you can observe and redirect or like restart those patterns that you see. So going into this new energy, like in the second half of the week, it's all about starting to bring of the sun in in Gene Key 13. It's all about starting to bring awareness to, or like that new awareness that you have, and using it to untangle some of those patterns and cycles that you've observed. It's about listening to others. It's like really about connections and relationships, and like how you connect to others, and truly listening, not just hearing what other people have to say, but listening to it and learning their lessons, like learning from your past, but also learning from the collective past, so that you can do things differently and continue to expand and grow. And in order to do that, you have to have that stable inner environment so that you can do the work required to release those patterns, to heal those patterns, and so that you can grow and expand. So it's this beautiful, like, it's a very internal and a very reflective energy this week. There's of course some there's, what's the word I'm thinking of? There's some action to be taken this week, right? Like, how do you start breaking those patterns? What do you do to heal those cycles and heal your trauma that you're carrying? But a lot of it's very much internal, and how you view things, and how you take steps to heal that. It's not just rushing to try and heal everything. It's like feeling into what are the biggest things that are either keeping you stuck or preventing you from moving forward. So, looking at some of the other activations that are happening this week, like I mentioned, there's the channel of awareness is active this entire week that connects your head to your ajna. The channel of the prodigal, which is 1333, and it connects your throat to your G center. That's active early in the week, starting from last Friday, the 28th, all the way through Wednesday, the 2nd. And then also on Wednesday, the 2nd, we have the channel of synthesis activated, which connects your throat to your emotional solar plexus. So, like, how do all of those work together? We have a lot of different activations happening. But like I said, this week is really a period of really focusing on the inner world, and like cultivating that inner world so that your outer world can start being a reflection of that inner world. So looking at your, what's happening, that channel of awareness that connects your head and your ajna is like really all about if you don't have these activated already, which most of you probably do not, the head center is one of the like least common to have defined. So for this week, and for the next 2 weeks, because this channel is activated through February 10th, is like cultivating, instead of getting your inspiration from external things, like how do you turn inward and pull in through source or God or whoever, like pull in that new inspiration, ideas, and like how are those beliefs, like how are your beliefs and perspectives taking shape when you focus on the internal? So really seeing the world with new eyes, but then like going inward to kind of process how you see things and what does that mean and how can you use that energy. It's a great time to connect with yourself, and just observe yourself, and like observe yourself like taking action or doing things to break free of those karmic cycles and patterns and things that are keeping you really stuck. In the middle of the week, you're really going to have like a little bit of a boost of energy. So with the on Wednesday the 2nd, with the channel of synthesis, that activates your root. It's the second time I did that, in your emotional solar plexus. So that's going to give you a nice boost of energy. That the emotional solar plexus and the root are both energy centers, and they're going to be defined on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, it might be good. Like now that you've taken a lot of time to really like go internal, on Wednesday, it might be time to start maybe taking some action on the things that you've been observing that will help you maybe break free of some of those like things that are kind of keeping you small, playing small. And you're going to have not just the energy to do things, but you're also going to have the energy to process the emotions that come up with that on Wednesday. So it's like, as you're expanding, like now that you've gone internal and you've come clear, or like you're getting clear on things and you're observing what's happening around you, and now you're finally ready to like take action on how to expand yourself, like doing what it takes to expand yourself. Of course, there's going to be emotions that show up as you're stepping into a higher frequency, a new version of you. There's going to be emotions that come up as part of that. And on Wednesday, especially if you don't normally have your emotional solar plexus defined, you'll have a chance to maybe process through some of those emotions as you expand into these new levels of awareness. All right, so let's talk about, now knowing that energy, let's talk about how to activate it and integrate it this week with some more practical action steps and things that I'm going to be doing in my own life and business this week. So it's really important to focus on creating congruence between your inner and outer worlds, like starting with what we talked about last week, coming into this week. Does your outer world, is it a reflection of, your outer world is a reflection of your inner world, but is that outer world like, is that what you want it to be? Or does that mean you need to focus more on that inner world and like create that congruence? So it's really about continuing, like especially early in the week, like continuing to bring awareness to those patterns and cycles that are keeping you stuck and playing small. So maybe it's journaling or however you choose to reflect, voice noting, just sitting in meditation, like whatever works for you is just bringing that crystal clear awareness to what's keeping you playing small so that you can take steps to address it. Do you believe that you're worthy of your desires? Going back to my story at the beginning of this transmission, like, are you just doing things to prove your worthiness, or because you don't believe that you're worthy on the inside? Like, what are you doing in the external world and taking action on and doing to prove your worthiness? Like, is that something that's happening? And if so, how do you work on that internal environment and landscape to help you feel more worthy of what you're desiring? Another act. So again, the energy this week, especially the start of the week, is very introspective and continues from some of the introspective energy of last week. The other thing, like to take a little bit more like specific action steps towards things, especially like in the middle of the week, is really thinking about what steps can you take to make your outer environment a better reflection of the inner state that you're trying to build up and step into. So it's not all just inner work. Like you have to take action steps on the external in order to align and create that congruence between the internal and the external. So are you someone who wants to become a successful entrepreneur and have a successful business, but you don't have any offers to promote? you know, a successful entrepreneur has to sell something. That's just an example. Like, what are the things that you're trying to cultivate, and like what aspects of that are you missing? Like, can you create? Can you build? Can you act upon in order to create that external congruence to then like draw out that internal? Like match the internal that you're trying to create. In terms of your external environment, are you surrounding yourself with empowering and expanding people, or are you surrounding yourself with people that keep you in that state of playing small? Are you keeping yourself small by the environment that you're putting yourself in, or are you putting yourself in environments that will help expand you? This is definitely something to think about. Like, are there places where you can put yourself that help expand you and help bring awareness to those cycles and patterns that are keeping you playing small? So maybe find ways to meet and connect with people who approach their business how you want to approach it on every single level. So think about not just the revenue, like don't just go out and join a mastermind or join a program just because it promises a certain amount of revenue. Think about like, it's not just the services they provide either. It's like, what is the vibe? And is this person authentic in their vibe? Like, is this someone that will help you raise up to the next level? All right, so that's it for this energetic transmission for this week. If you're looking for more guidance as you integrate your own personal human design blueprint into your business, you can start with the free and low-cost resources that I have, including the masterclass, New Paradigm Entrepreneurship Using Human Design. You can find the links below for everything in the episode description. And if you learned something new or resonated with something specifically that I said here today, I'd love to meet and connect with you. So feel free to DM me on Instagram, say hello, and share what your biggest takeaways are for your own life and business. All right, in our next episode, I'm going to be talking all about how I use human design and Gene Keys together and separately, and what their purpose is in getting into the frequency of your business, like their similarities and differences. And I'm going to be talking about that specifically from a business lens. I can't wait to share this with you because I've gotten a lot of questions on it. So I'll see you there.